Welcome back to the Spoked Wheel YouTube channel. We are back today with another experiment, challenge, whatever you want to call it. As you can see from the title of the video, today we are going to try to win some national championships. So basically the way that I'm going to do this is I'm playing as a continental team and I'm picking only riders who are out of contract in the game currently, which means I can't take a rider from an established team already and take him over to my team and win the national championship that way. So I'm picking basically only riders who are free agents at this point in time. And our goal is to take this team of 18 riders and try and win as many national championships in one season as we can. So the only races that we're going to care about and play are the national championship races. If we're scheduled to ride in any other races earlier on in the season before the national championships take place, we're just going to go right through them. They do not matter to us for the purposes of this challenge / experiment. So as you can see already, I've sort of set up my team. We are Spoked Wheel Cycling Team, Spoked Wheel for short. I picked this jersey basically because I thought the swirls and the ferns and stuff sort of looks like the white background with the black wheel that I have as my logo right now. And also New Zealand is a pretty decent country to be from, I think, so it's a good base, decent cycling country. And then you can also see that I've selected 18 riders to be on the team for our goal. So by my count, using this world database, which is made and makes the game a lot better thanks to the members of the PCM community who put a lot of hours into that, it just improves the quality of the game so much overall. And based on my count, there are 89 different countries with a national road racing championship in that database. Whether or not that's the same amount as the base game, I'm not sure, but I would guess that they have added quite a few of those races based on what they do in terms of other races in the database. From that list of 89 countries, I narrowed it down to 27 countries that I think we could have a realistic shot of winning the national championship with a free agent rider. So you got to remember that all these guys in the game, obviously very good cyclists, but if they're not on the team, it's probably because there's other riders who are better, that teams want more, basically. So we're not going to be able to roll up to a national championship in Belgium or something with a rider who's a free agent and win against some of the best riders in the world. So we have to do this pretty tactically in order to get the results that we want. So I basically went through and looked at which races I thought had the smallest amount of riders that we would have to compete against first off, and then second, courses and profiles to the races that I thought would be beneficial to us as well. So from that list of 27 that I came up with, that short list, I went through and selected a team of 18 riders, which is the maximum that you can have in the Continental Division. So for the majority of countries, we have just one rider representing that country in order to try and basically spread out our options. You can't win. We can win more national championships if we have one rider in a bunch of different countries than if we have lots of riders in one country, basically. But that being said, there are a couple countries that I picked multiple riders in. So the countries and the riders that we have, just to go through them quickly, we started off with this rider, Leon from Bolivia. So that's our first country. We also have this rider, Saki from Ghana. Kamzong from Cameroon as well. We have a Tunisian rider, Norisi. Next, we go over to Europe, Liechtenstein, and we have this rider, Gower. I'm probably doing horribly on a lot of these pronunciations, so sorry about that, but I'm not an expert in pronouncing names from all these different countries. So we also, staying in Europe, this guy might actually be our best rider, from Bulgaria, Mihailov. I was surprised that he was actually available as a free agent. 68 overall is very solid for that. We then go back to Azerbaijan. We have the 22-year-old Garamanali. Bahrain, Alawi, so two sort of Middle Eastern countries there. We then go over to Greece with another rider who's a 68 overall, Kastrentas. And South America as well, so we have representation from all over the globe, basically. Here we have a rider from Uruguay, Anchieri. We then go to Uganda with another rider, Ali. Kuwait as well. And then we get into our riders where we have more than one from a team. So all these riders here above, I picked just one rider because I thought that we could get the win with one rider. The Bahamas and Malta, I think we need two riders to do it. The Bahamas, the course is extremely flat. I don't think any one rider could ride away from the rider who will be on the start line with us. So I picked two to give us a little bit of a tactical advantage. And then in Malta, the rider who's on the start line is a little bit better than any of the riders who were available. So I picked two, again, to try and give us the option to attack and force him to chase and weaken him, ideally. And then last but not least, we have this rider, Levkov, from Macedonia. So at the end of the day, I wanted to get as many possible races that we could win as we could. Obviously, the maximum that we could have would be 18 if we picked just one rider from 18 different countries. We have 16 different countries that we could potentially win the national championship of, so I think that's pretty decent. Realistically, I have no idea what's going to happen. There's some of these races where we might even be the only rider on the start line, which should give us the guaranteed victory, theoretically. I think if I'm setting a target right off the bat, I would like to get at least 12 wins from the 16. I think that would be a decent accomplishment in one season. You know, it's just one season of the career, so we don't have any do-overs or second chances if we mess something up. So yeah, I'm going to say on record now before we get into it, my goal would be to get 12 victories from this list of 16 countries. Okay, so we are now on the eve of our first objective, which is the Uruguayan National Championships with our guy Pablo Anchieri here. 30 years old, he's a sprinter. So before we get into that, a few things to mention. First off, I forgot to talk about the ITTs in the opening of the video. So for the purposes of this experiment, we're just going to focus on the road races. We're just going to simulate through the ITTs. Hopefully we'll get a couple of results in that, but I'm not going to actually count those races towards our totals because we're focusing on road race national championships. Second, a lot has happened through the simulation. Basically, I cleared our race calendar of any race that wasn't a national championship. And as a result, our sponsors are very unhappy with us because we're not getting results and meeting the objectives they've set for us. So if I was doing a real playthrough where I needed to continue season to season, this would be very bad. But because we're just in this to try and win national championships in 1 year, it doesn't really matter. I am kind of surprised actually that the morale of our riders is still good, considering none of them have had any race days. That's the one thing I'm a little concerned about as the season progresses, is whether or not some of our riders will start to get unhappy because of a lack of racing before they get into their national championships. I hope they won't, but we will see. I think that's a very real possibility that might happen. But other than that, I think it's about time to just get into the races. So we got 16 races. The Uruguayan race is in February, and then most of the races are bunched up later on in the season. I'll just show you the calendar real quick. So we have Uruguay in February. The second one on the calendar is Bolivia, which is a little bit later on in the season. And then every other race, I think, is bunched up on this day. So there will be, 14 races that we do on this day to get to our total of 16. So we're just going to start with Uruguay. Like I said at the start, our target that we want to hit is 12 wins. We could get as many as 16 if things go perfectly for us, but we're just going to have to get into the racing and find out. Alright, so we're on the start line of the Uruguayan National Championships with our guy Pablo Anchieri. It is a good old-fashioned one-on-one with Mr. Ferrari here. So as you can see from the profile, it's a very flat one, very flat race, 218 kilometers, so it's a long one. And our strategy for this one is just try and stay with him and win it in the sprint as he attacks to open off the race. So we have a 69 sprint with +2 race day condition, 67 acceleration, +1. He has a 66 sprint and a 69 acceleration. So theoretically, it will be very competitive, but we should have a slight advantage in the sprint, I think, if it comes down to that. So we're just going to try and stay with Ferrari as long as we can. Maybe try and make him do more of the work, although we're probably riding at such a slow pace that it doesn't really matter who's doing the work. And just basically keep an eye out for these attacks because we don't want him to get any separation. Let's make sure we can get back on his wheel here, which we can. And yeah, so that's our plan. Stick with him and take it to the sprint. Let's see how it goes as he attacks again. So I think it's pretty clear that's his plan. So we're just going to have to keep an eye out and make sure we don't let him get away. We are going under the 5 kilometers to go banner as we speak in the Uruguayan National Road Race Championship. We have it locked in, so we're following Ferrari's wheel, so we'll let him open up the sprint and then hopefully try and come around him. I hope we get off to a winning start and take this first one. The problem is we raced 218 kilometers, I think it was, for it to be decided in a sprint in the last kilometer in the game. So there's a lot riding on the finish, basically. But I'm hoping our attributes will let us take the win, but we will find out right now. Let's open up the sprint. Oh, that went so badly. He just Anchieri just basically stayed in right on his wheel in his slipstream. I was waiting for him to come around and he was just sitting there. So then I finally realized that I had to try and move him out of his slipstream, but I just didn't have enough time to come around and win. So I'm gonna say that one is manual error for sure. That was one that I should have won and I did not. So not a good start, unfortunately. in terms of getting the max number of wins. Even on that replay, you could see we had the speed to come around him. We just waited way too late. I'm not really sure why when I clicked sprint he stayed in slipstream, but I guess that's the way it goes. So we're 0 for 1, unfortunately. Really should have won that one, so it's a disappointing 0 for 1. But you can't win them all, I guess. So next up is going to be Bolivia, and hopefully we're able to get back on track and get our first win. Man, we should have had that one. I hope it doesn't end up costing us that 12 victory target that we set. But the only way to find out is by playing all the rest of the races. So Bolivia up next. We have now reached our second national championship opportunity of the season, which is, of course, Bolivia with Bernardo Leon. So, a couple updates. First, that second place at Uruguay earned us a lot of sponsor confidence. The bar was all the way full for a while. It has been decreasing since then, but they were happy with that. Although, again, that doesn't really matter for the purposes of this experiment. Then the second thing is the riders on my team are starting to become unhappy because of a lack of racing. To be honest, I don't really know how that impacts things. This thing right here says that the impact may disappear when the rider takes part in races, so that might mean that we're fine and there will be no negative penalty, I guess, from the morale once we actually get into the races, but I'm not 100% positive on that, so I don't really know how that's gonna impact things. If I was to do it again, I might include some races every now and again just to keep the riders in action, but I picked the way I was going to do it this time, so we're going to keep going swiftly onwards and see if we can't get a win in Bolivia. We are into the final 5 kilometers in Bolivia, and as you can see, Bernardo Leon is the only rider in the race. So we are guaranteed victory pretty much. Let me know down in the comments section whether or not you think that a race that has no other riders really counts as a legitimate victory. Personally, I think it does. I mean, based on the fact that we had to take free agents, we had to pick races that gave us the best shot, and there's no better shot than a race with no competition, so let's celebrate nice and early. We got our first win on the board, depending on how you look at it. I personally am counting it. All you can do is beat the opposition that you're up against, so if there's no opposition, it's not a knock on you, I think. So we're 1 for 2 now with that win in Bolivia. We really should be 2 for 2. I still can't believe that I messed up the finish in the Uruguayan race as much as I did. But I guess that's bike racing, and that's how it goes. Sometimes you just squander opportunities that you should take advantage of. So yeah, 1 for 2 after the first 2. Those are the two races that are kind of off on their own. The remaining 14, like I showed you, are all taking place on the same day. So we're just gonna have to jump ahead to that and see how the rest of the races go. I think there's probably likely to be a couple more that we are the only rider in the race. Not exactly sure how many. There's probably going to be other ones where we're up against one rider. Like I said, I was picking based on which races I thought gave me the best possible chance to win. So obviously no races with big fields and strong teams and things like that. But yeah, 1 for 2 so far. Let's jump ahead to the day of the final 14 races, and we'll try and go through those quickly and figure out how many we can win. Okay, so after a whole lot of simulating, we have reached the crux of this experiment, I guess, which would be the 14 road races on the very same day. So going off of what I decided at the beginning with 12 as a target, we're going to have to win 11 of these 14 to hit that. I think it's doable, but I'll have to avoid losing a race that I should win like I did in Uruguay. I know for sure that there's going to be a couple more races where it's just one rider. I'm not sure how many there will be, but that will help out and give a nice little boost of a couple victories for sure. But other than that, I think it's just about time to get right into it. Most of the riders are pretty unhappy with the lack of racing, but I don't think that really is a huge deal. It didn't seem to have any impact on Leon's race day condition in the Bolivian National Championships race. I'm pretty sure he was on a positive day anyways, so let's get right into the racing, and hopefully we can come up with 11 more wins to get to 12 total. Alright, we are in Uganda for the third of our 16 National Championship road races. Our guy, Ali, is up against a rider who has a better sprint and better acceleration, which means we're going to have to try and go solo at some point and get to the line on our own, because I'm not really comfortable letting it go to a sprint with someone who is faster than us in a sprint. So we'll try and attack and get away, and we will see how it goes. Alright, so we're getting close to the finish. I tried attacking a few times and didn't really get a gap. I'm going to try once or twice more here, and if not, we're just going to have to settle for a sprint, basically. So use this little hill to try and put in a dig, but straight away, Kagumu is on our wheel. I guess there's just, see, these one-on-ones are really interesting tactically. I actually really enjoy playing them because, like, neither of us really have an incentive right now to set a tempo at all, but then as soon as someone attacks, the other rider is straight on the wheel. I think I'm gonna have to just settle for the sprint. I can't get a gap. I'm going to try leading this one out, to hopefully avoid what happened in the Uruguayan National Championships. And I'm going to try, we've done the same loop a couple different times, I'm going to try sprinting along the left-hand side of the road right up against the barrier. And I know this other guy has a better sprint than us, but I'm hoping that if we lead things out and go first, it'll be a short enough sprint that he won't be able to come around us. But we'll see. Alright, let's open up the lead out. I'm riding at 85 effort right now. And let's go for it. Yeah, so in the end, his better sprint was enough to get the win. Almost the exact same outcome as the Uruguayan Championships, where it was a sprint and we just missed out, although I'm a lot less disappointed this time because the other guy was the better sprinter and we just couldn't get a gap throughout the rest of the course. So it is what it is. Hats off to him. We are now 1 for 3, I believe, which is not a very good record, to be honest, if we're shooting for that 12. So we're going to have to pick it up straight away with the next one. It's still possible, but we got to string together some wins here in a row in order to hit that target. We have less than 5 kilometers to go in the National Championship road race over in Ghana, where our rider Emmanuel Saki is the lone rider in the race. So this will be our second victory out of 4 attempts. Unfortunately, both of those have come in the races where we're the only rider, where we've lost the the 2 races where we've had actual competition, so that's a trend that we need to change going forward, but we'll be good to grab another win. I have never played the Ghanaian National Championship before. I really like the red dirt on the side of the road. It's kind of a cool look. And yeah, it's going to be another good victory. So I think obviously 2 out of 4 is 50%, which is not quite the pace we need to be on to get the 12, but I think as we keep going, we can keep picking up some more victories and try and hit that marker. Let's get a celebration from Emmanuel as he crosses the line. Very nice. Perfect. Yeah, so 2 wins and 4 attempts. Like I said, not quite as good as it needs to be, but it's not terrible either. Could be worse. So we have traveled over to Malta, which is one of the 2 locations in which we have a numerical advantage. So it's one that we really do need to win. So this guy, Alexander Smith, is better overall than both our riders, but a lot of it is in the sprinting category, and as you can see, this race is very hilly. So this guy, Formosa, has a better hill rating than Smith. Our other rider, Bujeja, I'm sure I'm saying that name incorrectly, he has a worse hill rating and he has a bit of a bad day. So we're going to try and ride for Formosa and use this guy as a domestique. Interesting that he has attacked straight from the get-go. I guess he doesn't want to be caught in a 2-on-1 situation the whole time, basically. And already he's riding away, which is not very good, I have to say. But he looks like he's out of energy, so let's just relay with our 2 guys and get up there. Ideally, our strategy would be alternating attacks to try and isolate him. But if he's going to be able to ride away from us, then that's not going to be possible, unfortunately. So we'll see if we can catch back up. Hopefully we can. But if not, this one is not going to be our day, I'm afraid. So with 55 kilometers to go, after attacking over and over again with Bujeja, we finally have got a very nice gap of 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Our man out front basically has no energy whatsoever, but Smith, for the time being, isn't chasing at all, and I'm just marking him right now with Formosa, so that if he tries to attack across or chases, I can be right on his wheel. I'm not sure if there's a point where he's going to start chasing, but if not, we will have used our numerical advantage successfully and managed to grab the win, which would be great. We really do need to win this one, considering it's one of the countries that we spent 2 riders on instead of just picking 1 rider per country. So both this and the Bahamas, since we have a numerical advantage, we really do need to win those 2 races. And as I've been talking, the gap has been going out steadily. We're now inside of 50 kilometers to go, and it's almost 4.5 minutes. So I think it's looking pretty good for him to hang on and win solo. And if for whatever reason Smith brings it back, I'll have a relatively fresh Formosa to basically just sit on his wheel up the final climb, which is super steep, and then hopefully come around him. But ideally, we won't even need to do that because of Bujeja out front, who has done a lot of work and has also attacked nicely here. We are inside of 5 kilometers to go for Bujeja. Still not sure on the pronunciation, but he is on his way to securing victory in the Malta Road Championships for Spoked Wheel Cycling Team. As you can see, the gap is up around 7.5 minutes. Smith never really started chasing. We were able to use our numerical advantage exactly how I hoped when I picked 2 riders in Malta. So this is I'm really glad that we're getting this win. Like I said, it's one that we needed to get because we did spend 2 riders on this race basically. So yeah, great ride by Buyeja is the pronunciation I'm going with. He was out on his own for a long time. He gets a thoroughly deserved win. Let's celebrate nice and early. And then we will also jump back here to Formosa, who has 3.4 kilometers to go. And we're basically gonna stick on Smith's wheel up into this very steep climb. I should have used my energy gel earlier, but that's okay. And then we'll see if we can't attack off his wheel and grab second place to go with the first place. But he's a good sprinter. We should have a slight edge in the hills category, but I'm not sure whether or not it will be enough to come around him. Let's go for it. And it is indeed enough to come around him. So we're going to take first and second in Malta, which is a great result. This is our best result so far for sure. Our first victory against live competition, I guess you could say. And we used the numerical advantage tactically exactly how I had hoped we would be able to. So we defended against attacks from Smith, and then eventually just by attacking over and over again, we were able to get away for the win. So perfect race in Malta, I would say.